On the 7th of October 1979, a Swissair DC-8 crashed while attempting to land at Athens-Ellinikon International Airport. Of the 154 passengers and crew on board, 14 perished in the accident. The crash, Swissair Flight 316, was an international scheduled passenger service from Geneva, Switzerland to Athens, Greece. The aircraft, named Uri, was piloted by Fritz Schmutz with co-pilot Martin Oehringer. Flight 316 touched down on runway 15L at a speed of 146 knots. The aircraft decelerated but overran the runway and came to rest on a public road. The left wing and tail separated and fire broke out. 14 of the 142 passengers on board perished. Among the dead were British, German, and French citizens. Of the passengers on board, 100 were doctors on the way to a medical convention in China. One of Flight 316's survivors was Hans Morgenthau, a professor emeritus from the University of Chicago and expert in international relations. Aftermath. After the crash, it was learned that the aircraft was transporting over 1,000 pounds of radioactive isotopes and a small amount of plutonium. The plutonium was in the luggage of one of the doctors on board, and was briefly missing in the aftermath of the crash, although it was quickly found. Authorities had firemen and other rescue workers checked for radiation exposure. The crash destroyed over $2 million worth of industrial diamonds bound for Bombay. Most of the uncut diamonds were found by police, but they were destroyed by the crash's intense heat. 2 days after the crash of Flight 316, Greek authorities charged pilot Fritz Schmutz with manslaughter plus other charges. At a trial in 1983, Schmutz, along with co-pilot Oehringer, were found guilty of multiple charges including manslaughter with negligence, causing multiple bodily injury, and obstructing air traffic, and were sentenced to 5 and 2.5 years in prison respectively. Schmutz and Oehringer were set free on bail while they appealed the sentences. A year after the sentencing, the court ruled Schmutz and Oehringer could substitute fines in place of jail time. Neither pilot had flown since the accident, but they were employed by Swissair. Cause. The accident investigation determined the causes of the accident were that the crew touched down too far down the runway, at too high a speed, following a non-stabilized approach, and that they failed to properly utilize the aircraft's brake and reverse thrust systems, which resulted in them being unable to stop the aircraft within the available runway and overrun distance. One member of the operations team of the Accident Investigation Committee had a different opinion from the rest of the committee regarding the cause of the accident, stating that he believed the crew failed to realize the touchdown speed and distance, failed to follow the company's poor braking action landing technique, and failed to properly utilize the aircraft's brake and reverse thrust systems.